Don't worry guys, I'm gonna start this video in a second. I just want to grab a snack. One of my roommates decided to inspire me by shoving a girlfriend in the fridge again. When will they learn that's not the way? And welcome back to the heart of the stories we tell. A series where I spend way too much time thinking about what makes a story. And today's episode is Women in the Refrigerator. First, let me explain. This isn't about a woman literally being shoved into a refrigerator. Although that is the trope namer, it really isn't what it's about. It was happening before there were refrigerators to begin with, and it happens all the time in different ways. And it's not even just a sexist way of looking at it. Because when you really look at it, lots of characters get shoved into the background, hurt, killed, whatever, to spur on our protagonist. The fact that it's disproportionately not white males that it happens to makes people cry racism, sexism. But because of the fact that this is going to be talking about deaths of characters, let's throw the spoiler warnings up. I'll try not to talk about anything that came out in 2016, movie, book, or comics, but if I do, I'll put up a second spoiler warning. For now, just stop. Spoiler time. So meet Alex. Alex was Kyle's girlfriend, and as you can see, the art made it very clear exactly how their relationship looked. In issue 51 of Green Lantern Comics, we're introduced to her. We're introduced to her for all of like 10 seconds. By issue 54, this happens. Meet Major Force. Major Force needs to send a message to Green Lantern, and to do so, he has to kill his girlfriend, leave a note on the table, and boom, open the fridge, and there's Alex. Now, lots of people have made comments about this over the years, including using this as part of the excuse for everything is racist, everything is sexist. As much as I liked the story, you introduced a character just to kill them. You introduced the idea of the girlfriend just to kill her. There's a little bit to be said about that. So since violence like this isn't anything new in comic books, where does the name come from? Well, it comes from Gail Simone. Gail Simone is a comic book writer who has written some of the best stories I've ever read. However, was originally most famous for saying, hey, wait a minute. Why is it this mostly happens to women? Why do we keep shoving women in the fridge? Now, even she went on and kind of lampooned the idea herself when she wrote Batgirl Future's End. Now, that story, for all intents and purposes, is a gendered swap woman in the refrigerator. Barbara Gordon Batgirl gets inspired and is affected directly by the death of her husband, who she just married. But I'm willing to bet that even she thinks some people have taken these arguments too far. And I think that this Batgirl issue is a great example of it. Nemus Simone used Batgirl to make quite the name for herself when she wrote Birds of Prey, except back then her character's name was Oracle. However, the way she became Oracle, and exactly what transpired, is yet another example of this trope in action. So let's talk Joker, and the Killing Joke. Specifically the comic, although since the cartoon just came out, I guess double secret spoiler warning here. Now, the Killing Joke was originally written to be not in continuity. It was just a one-off tale. But somehow it got brought into continuity, and once it did, we have the fact that the Joker shot Barbara Gordon. Now, by this point, Barbara Gordon wasn't really Batgirl anymore, so it wasn't just killing a superhero. She was literally just the damsel in distress, and in the worst possible way. Even Alan Moore doesn't like the story anymore, and he friggin' wrote it. So what was the reason that Joker decided to target librarian Barbara Gordon? Why, to make her father go insane. Specifically to show that anyone could become Joker if they had just one bad day. Now, there are stories going around about the editors actually saying, what do I care, cripple the bitch, and other similar misogynistic things about Barbara Gordon during this time frame. But I have to say, the fact that they took out one of their main superheroes, and that superhero wasn't the target, they were specifically going for a different superhero's sidekick to be affected, in the form of James Gordon, kind of makes me wonder what they were thinking, and then kind of makes me hope I never understand what they were thinking. Now, to be fair to Killing Joke, it is well written, even if there is a bad underlying theme, and it's one of the most critically acclaimed comic books of all time. And that's where we get into the rub of this. Even if you go back all the way to Hercules, when him killing his family, the idea that someone close to you getting hurt or killed is your call to action is a classic one. The problem isn't that it happens. The problem is that it happens too often. And when we relegate, especially characters that should be powerful female characters, into that role, we're diminishing the story as a whole. Now, unless you live under a rock, if you've looked up anything on the internet, you know it gets worse. We're going to start with the fact that as recently as only 2 years ago, they had this cover, showcasing Joker still torturing Batgirl, because that's what we needed, a reminder. And then when they did the animated movie, The Killing Joke, I don't know what they were thinking. I really don't. The more I look at the way they changed what Batgirl's relationship was to Batman, the more I think they were trying to get her more into the fridge, not less. But if you think Batman's bad, whew, wait until you see what Green Arrow did. Do you know who Black Canary is? She's a founding member of the Justice League. She was a member of the Justice Society. She was the leader of the Justice League. She is a kick-ass Sonic Scream superpower. She's considered one of the best martial artists in the DC universe. And, oh yeah, she happens to be Green Arrow's girlfriend. Why? Because when they were in the Justice League together, they paired them up as the way they do things. They pair up characters. And then somehow she became the damsel in distress in his stories. I still don't understand how one of the best characters, who's probably more powerful in every way, shape, and form, became the damsel in distress. Oh, right, because sometimes we just write women that way for no reason. You can say, well, that was the 80s, that wasn't now, except for Cry for Justice was in the late 90s, early 2000s, and Green Arrow once again was getting this time with his sidekick getting his arm chopped off, and his sidekick's daughter being killed. By the way, his sidekick's daughter, a little girl, 4 or 5 years old. There is no reason we needed that type of violence in this comic. But then again, Cry for Justice could also just be called Cry for Attention. What about other modern stories? Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has the woman that Phil Coulson is dating and sleeping with shot through the throat. Why? Because someone wanted to send him a message. By the way, that's the same character who kicked serious ass and was keeping up with not only the whole team, but being Phil Coulson's equal right up until, bang, shot. Dead. It reminds me of another death, a powerful one in Identity Crisis, Sue Dibney. Those of you that have been paying attention, though, realize that I've glossed over a couple of deaths, because it's not just women, it's sidekicks being put in the fridge, too. We'll start with the fact that Robin was killed. Now, it may or may not have been a stunt that they had the vote for Jason Todd, but either way, it didn't end well for him. Not in the comics, not in the cartoons, not even in the new movies. Although, I do wonder about that. Roy Harper had his arm chopped off in the Cry for Justice comic I was talking about, and that again was another Green Arrow fridging. When you really think about it, again, it's a classic storytelling technique. Like art or porn, you know it when you see it when someone's just been fridged. Anyone who's paid attention to this knows that Booster Gold is one of my favorite characters, and I personally feel that Blue Beetle got fridged, and he was his best friend. The Dresden Files, written by Jim Butcher, is full of examples of people being fridged, male and female. But if you want to talk about gratuitous violence and gratuitous death of main characters, I think we all know what book series I need to talk about. The granddaddy of them all, the one that made my friend who reads like 100 books a year put down the entire series because his favorite character got killed at the end of the first book, Game of Thrones. No discussion of fridging, specifically killing a character to influence another, could possibly go without talking about this book and TV series. Now, Game of Thrones brings up an interesting question. With the number of deaths, both male and female, who gets to say, or who gets to watch The Watchmen? Who gets to say whether a writer is throwing someone in the fridge, or generally actually giving character development and plot development where it's necessary? If you aren't careful, you end up having a protected class. Well, you can't kill any women then, right? But on the other hand, you don't want it to be the trope is women die just to inspire the men to greatness. It's actually a bit of a lazy tactic if you think about it, and a go-to for many a year. Once again, dead parents weren't unique when Bruce Wayne had them. Just to end on a funny note, let's talk about the most recent thing I saw where a male protagonist was inspired by the death of a fellow co-star. And I'm talking about Batman v Superman, where Bruce Wayne got the character development because Superman died. And you know, there might have been a few stories over the years where people put those two together romantically. Now I'm going to leave you with what my final thought is. And my final thought is this. As writers, we need to come up with other ways to inspire our characters, other ways to show characters are terrifying. We can't say no one ever can die, or else there's no threat in the story. But at the same time, we shouldn't be taking the girlfriend and automatically throwing her in the fridge just to say, oh, well, there we go, disposable, we'll just get another one. The thing I find the most ironic is that the trope Nemus, the Green Lantern one, was made to die, She was written that very first appearance to make us feel for her, so when she died we felt it. It's not the same thing as when Barbara Gordon was crippled. I think that the much worse one was Barbara Gordon, even though Barbara Gordon turning into Oracle might have been one of the best things that happened to her. This is one of those ones where it's very, very hard to pin down exactly what the good answer is. So I'm going to leave it up to you. Let's have the discussion down in the comments, and we'll see where this goes from here. Maybe I'll revisit this topic in a future video. So for now, I need you to like, subscribe, and share this video so that we can grow this community, and then join me back here next time as we take a walk through the heart of the stories we tell. Thanks for watching. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go clean out my fridge.